So one of the hot topics on the internet, right, is the idea of women should submit to a man and men wanting more feminine, submissive, women who take care of themselves. That's what they desire. And to me, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? But I think what's missing from the conversation is what actually helps or is going to allow a woman to submit to you. Now, yes, we will not ignore the fact that a woman has to have that feminine energy within herself. She has to come in with the willingness to do so. But we can't ignore that there is a role you play as a man that will invite more submission into your life or not. Because the reality is that as much as I hear men complaining about women not being submissive, not being feminine, I know men who get nothing but feminine, submissive women. Like, that's what they attract into their life. That's what they're able to receive. But a lot of that is because they're following the principles that sets the stage for that. So as a man, if you want to increase your ability to receive that, well, then here are 5 things for you to consider. And the first one, and it's very important, is build your resume. Now, actually, I'm sorry. Before I tell you about building your resume, let me back up a little bit. I want you to understand that the big problem that women have when it comes to submission boils down to trust. Women struggle to trust a man's ability to lead. Now, a lot of that stems from what women have gone through in their life, whether that be growing up in a household where they didn't have a male figure that set that proper, healthy example, or they had a male figure and they watched them get run over, right, by their mother. So they don't trust men to be able to take the lead and do what's best for their partner or for their family. Or they may have experienced, a bad situation in one of their previous relationships. But at the end of the day, the real issue for them is a lack of trust and fear. And so when you understand that that is a big problem, you have to ask yourself, okay, how do I create an environment that allows her to trust me more? Now, again, there's only so much you can do because she has to be willing to heal from her past and address the issues that make it harder for her to embrace a man leading her. And when I say leading, I'm talking about leading with love. I encourage men to lead with love, not to be a woman's dictator and just tell her what she needs to do and she has no say-so whatsoever or she has no input into anything. No, we lead with love. We listen to our partners. We consider their feelings, all right? And we do what's best for us together as a unit, as a family, so on and so forth. But trust is a huge key. So I just had to mention that real quick because when you're seeing a struggle with it, ask yourself, why is there a lack of trust? And is it correctable on my side? All right. But let's go back to number 1, which is building your resume. So building your resume is huge because, as I just mentioned, it helps to build more trust. Because if a woman comes into your life and she does not see that you've built anything for yourself, now, it doesn't mean you have to be rich and super successful, but you're showing her that you've at least established your own foundation. You have a good work ethic. You are able to make sound decisions. All right. Without that, it's going to be very difficult for any woman, no matter how feminine they are, to submit to you. All right. Now, you may say, well, how will they know I'm capable of making good decisions because I have established myself? Well, any man who's able to get himself together and stand on his own 2 feet has clearly been able to make some good decisions. Plain and simple. It just goes hand in hand. It's a reflection of that. So by her seeing that you're on the right track, it's again easier for her to slide into that submission. On the flip side, if she doesn't see that I always say this, a man needs a woman who believes in him, but a man has to give a woman something to believe in. So if she has nothing that she sees that you set up for yourself, what can she now use as an example to say, okay, I can trust that this man can walk in the leadership position, that I can completely submit to him and trust that he knows what he's doing. You've given her nothing. So it's going to be a conflict. And then what happens also is, because you haven't established anything yet, the reality is that you're probably going to make more bad decisions than good starting off until you figure some things out. That's the natural progression for almost any man. As we are building ourselves up, we're going to make some mistakes. But when we're making those mistakes on our own as a single man, then we can work through that. We can get counsel from friends, from, mentors, whoever, right? But it's not going to have a negative impact on any relationship because we're not in one at that moment. But to make those mistakes while in the relationship now increases the chances of her not being able to trust you, therefore not her being able to submit to you. All right. And if she has been through any kind of past trauma, those failures, those mistakes can trigger those traumas. So you're only setting yourself up for a bigger battle. I'm not saying it's impossible to overcome. I'm saying most men aren't going to overcome it. But here's another big reason why I really want to encourage men to build their resume first, establish their foundation, rather than holding on to this idea of a woman should get with you while you're in that phase of trying to make some things happen and just build with you. The problem is this: if she is building with you while you have not gotten your stuff together, unless you really establish a dynamic where you are putting in the work and she's simply enhancing or supporting it, you're going to run into the issue where essentially it's going to turn into her doing more work than you. All right. Subconsciously or consciously, you're going to end up putting more burden on her. And even now, if you eventually get to a place of success, she will feel like I did not enhance this. I created this. I am the owner of your success. I am the owner of the man you have become. Now, again, I'm not saying every woman will do this, but I've seen tons of examples where the woman now feels like I made you, like you're her son. You know what I'm saying? Because she was the one doing most of the work. She was the one making the phone calls, making things happen for you, pushing you along the whole time when you weren't doing what you're supposed to do. And now, even though you're successful, she still can't respect you. She still can't submit to you because she does not see you as the leader. She sees herself as the leader. She got you here in her eyes. So this is the problem that many men run into. Now, other issues can come about because, again, not every woman who's willing to, quote unquote, build with you is there out of a genuine love. All right. That's a trap a lot of guys fall into, thinking that just because she takes you when you're all the way down there, when you're starting from the bottom, so to speak, that automatically means she's really for you. That's not always the case, but I'll leave that for a different video. The point is, it's risky. It's risky. And so you are better off as a man making sure you build your resume first. And again, we're not talking about rich. We're not talking about ultra successful, but you build the foundational pieces and you're at least able to stand on your own 2 feet. Then you get with a woman, and this will make it so much easier for her to submit to you. All right, now before I move on to the next point, my videographer, John Mark, made a point where, for a lot of men, reaching that foundation or even reaching success usually happens late 20s, maybe even 30s, some early 40s, right? So what happens to the younger guys who need more time to build that resume? Well, I have 2 things to say. One, you just need to wait. I'm just going to be real with you. I just think that, and I'm just giving an example. Let's say you're under 25. It doesn't mean under 25 can't have a relationship. It just means that, listen, if you're still at a point in your life where you haven't been able to stand on your own 2 feet yet and establish yourself, then I'd rather you focus on that than a woman. Now, if a woman comes along that you fall in love with and you really feel like this is the one and she understands where you're at and she wants to embrace this journey with you, I'm not completely against that, right? But you just have to be careful and you have to be very open with communicating, where you are, and you have to be serious about making sure that in that dynamic, you are putting in the work, that she's not the one leading you to success. You are leading yourself, but she is enhancing, encouraging, supporting. That's what it needs to be. But then also the other thing to consider is that some of you just need to start earlier. And what I mean by that is I think in society, we have this bad habit of telling people when they're younger, you have time, don't worry about it, you'll figure it out later. And I'm not saying I want to put pressure and rush you. What I am saying is that, listen, if we do the work sooner in our lives to figure out who we are as men, what our purpose is, what path we need to head on, well, then we can get the process rolling a lot sooner. And we can find success, or again, a foundation much sooner. But then there's also younger men who, I knew this one younger guy, he was 21, making like 200 grand a year. And I know that's an outlier. I'm just giving an example of it's not impossible for very young men to find success or establish themselves depending on, I guess, the support they have in their life and different circumstances at play. But either way, if you need more time, you need more time. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just make sure, again, I want you to strive to establish that foundation. It doesn't mean you can never, there's going to be always exceptions to every rule where men can still have that relationship as long as they go about it the right way and still receive that submission. All right, now, number 2 on the list of things you can do to make a woman submit to you is to be confident and assertive. So first, let's start with confidence. All right. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. At the end of the day, who's going to follow a man who does not believe in himself? So going back to men need a woman that believe in them. Well, you have to actually believe in yourself too. You have to walk in your confidence. You have to walk in your masculine energy. You have to walk in knowing who you are as best as possible. You know what I'm saying? And when you have that level of confidence and certainty of self, well, that exudes an energy that makes it easier for a woman to now embrace your lead and to embrace submission with you in a relationship. And I want you to also understand that confidence isn't, like there was this great quote I saw many years ago where it said, confidence isn't believing you're going to always get it right. It's not being afraid to get it wrong. All right. And I think it's important because, again, it's not that you're going to be perfect. Even after establishing yourself, you may still make some mistakes, but you have to be willing to face challenges, to understand how to reach proper decisions, and just to do your best. And then if it fails, if there is a mistake, for you to hold yourself accountable, for you to be able to humble yourself, learn from it, and grow so that the next situation you will be better. All right. So to me, that encompasses confidence. It's not letting these things get you down or hold you down. You take the punch, you might fall for a second, but you get right back up and you keep going. But now let's talk about being assertive. All right. Do not confuse assertive with controlling. Do not confuse assertive with being toxic. Do not confuse assertive with being a dictator. All right. And do not confuse assertive with any kind of, I said toxic, but any kind of negative energy. I see a lot of men trying to assert themselves in very negative, unhealthy ways. All right. Trying to establish their demand. But they're doing it in ways that only make matters worse and are unnecessary. One, be true to yourself. Don't try to act hard, all right? Just be you. If certain things aren't a big deal to you, cool. Like I may be saying this one wrong, but I remember hearing somewhere on YouTube where guys were told, like, if she changes the radio, change it real quick. I might be explaining it wrong, so forgive me. But all I know is the example that was given, I was like, yo, it's not that serious. Like, that's really not the place that, unless you genuinely feel like that you need to find ways to assert yourself. No, be you, but stand your ground on your values. Do not compromise who you are. You know what I'm saying? Speak with confidence and speak almost with the expectation that it will be received well and listened to and followed. But don't be so negative in your reaction. So even in being assertive, if let's say you tell your woman, the woman you're dating, hey, let's go here, and she resists, you don't have to get all negative and overly aggressive to get her to fall in line. You know what I'm saying? You got to learn how to effectively communicate and understand that some women will respond differently to different things. You know what I'm saying? And you have to be mindful of that and understand that when you get toxic, so let me just say this and I'm going to move on to the next point. Some men think they got to get overly aggressive and they're just doing it because, again, they're trying to assert themselves. But let's just say in being overly aggressive, you grab her arm really hard, right? Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not saying that's healthy. I will say, are there some women who may respond to that in a positive way? Yes, I'm just going to be honest. Yes, again, I'm not saying that's the way it should be done. I'm not saying that's healthy, but I am saying, does that happen? And I mentioned that because I think when men see that, they think, oh, this is what works, so let me do it. But what you're not considering is that there's another woman that you grab really hard like that, right? And yes, she may end up going where you want to go, but now you struck fear in her. Fear that now creates insecurity. Insecurity that now makes her not feel safe around you. Now, she's not following and listening to you out of love, out of a belief in you, out of saying, yo, I trust this man to make good decisions. She's only following you because she's scared. And she's afraid that you might cross a line next time. And that is unhealthy. That's a problem. That's not what you want in your relationship. And trust and believe, that's not sustainable. At some point, that's going to come back to haunt you. It's going to throw everything off. So don't think you got to cross those kind of lines to be assertive. You know what I'm saying? Learn how to do it in a loving way and it will be much more effective. Now that perfectly brings me to number 3. The third thing you can do to make a woman submit is to create a safe space for her. So again, what did I say in the beginning? It's about trust at the end of the day. Can she trust giving herself, being vulnerable to you in this way? And for a lot of women, that's a struggle. For a lot of people, it's a struggle. But when you can create a safe space, you make it easier for that woman to bring her walls down. Because her walls being up will block her abilities to submit or embrace your lead, all right? But her walls down is a game changer. So you've got to learn how to help her feel more at ease. You've got to learn how to not plant negative seeds in her by, again, doing toxic things that you think that, yes, might get you a certain reaction in the moment, but in the long run, it's wreaking more havoc in your relationship. You got to understand how not to be overly judgmental. There are some of you who the reason why your woman cannot fully open up to you is because you are so judgmental. And I mentioned this in my very first ever book, where it's not just about not being judgmental to her. If you are viewed as an overly judgmental man to women in general, you're gonna make it harder for her to feel like she can be completely open, vulnerable, and transparent with you. That's just the truth, plain and simple, all right? Again, I'm not telling you to compromise your beliefs and your values. If you have things that you feel strongly about, hold on to that. But I do want you to be mindful of, not looking down on your partner, not making her feel like she has to be afraid. And again, think about how you feel when you've dealt with a woman who's judgmental towards you or who you've seen as judgmental in general. You become more hesitant to open up to her. You become more hesitant to be vulnerable in certain situations because of how she comes at you in those moments. So it's the same thing. So creating that safe space means removing that judgment, making her feel safe, making her feel secure, being willing to communicate. All right. When you're willing to communicate, and again, you show her that you're willing to address issues and concerns, that helps eliminate a lot of the tension that puts walls up. Because again, if, for example, you guys are having an issue and you refuse to communicate or you're dodging communication with this woman, well, her not having clarity will create confusion. That confusion will create chaos. And out of reaction to that chaos that's going on within her, because she doesn't know what's happening here, she will put the wall up as a defense mechanism. And so now submission is not going to come naturally. It's not going to come easily. All right. So you've got to create that positive, loving, safe environment if you want that woman to feel comfortable, again, embracing your lead and submitting to you. Now, before I continue, I just want to tell you real quick, get your copy of my book, He Who Finds a Wife. It's helping a lot of men out there. Click the link in the description or in the comment section, or go to hewhofinds.com. All right. So now, number 4 on the list of things you can do to make a woman submit to you is to consider her feelings and her input. All right. So again, I repeat, a lot of women's issue is being able to trust the man. A lot of women have either grown up seeing bad examples, unhealthy examples, or men flat out not being able to be trusted. Now, I repeat, that is an issue they need to heal from. But as a man, if you're trying to create a successful relationship for yourself to experience, then you have to be mindful of not pouring into that negative perception and how you can create a new one for her. All right. So by considering her feelings and input, you have to understand this. When you don't at least talk to her and let her share her opinion, she will feel devalued. She will feel dismissed. She will also start to wonder, how can I trust you're making decisions that's best for the both of us together rather than just what you want to do? Now, what many women will do is they will retaliate. They will rebel. All right. And in that, they will either try to now force their way into that process. All right. Or if they can't, because you're just shutting them out completely, it will come out in other ways. So now they'll start nitpicking at other things that you think are not even a big deal. And those specific things probably aren't that big of a deal. But because she cannot be able to communicate with you and she feels like she's being shut out on this end, she has to take out her frustration and resentment and anger somewhere else. And that's what ends up happening. A lot of times when couples come to me for counseling and they're having conflict, one of the issues boils down to she feels like she is not included. And if she feels like she's not included, she feels like she's not valued. She feels like she's not respected. Now, if she feels like she's not respected, what do you think is going to happen? She's not going to be able to fully respect you. And if she can't respect you, how can she submit to you? How can she follow your lead? How can she truly love you? It won't work. So again, now, this doesn't mean you have to do what she says. Now, I know some women they ain't trying to hear that, but that's their problem, okay? I am not telling you have to just do what she says. I definitely do not want you to become a yes man. That's not healthy neither. That will work against you. I just want you to respect your partner enough to hear her out and to consider how this thing will impact her feelings. That's it, all right? There may be some scenarios, right, where even though she won't like it, you feel very strongly this is what's best for the both of us, and you have to do what you need to do. And you know, God willing, you make that decision and everything works out, and that can help her see, okay, well, maybe I just was overreacting. He knew what he was doing, right? And again, this goes back to why building that resume is so important, is because when you have that track record of making good decisions, making tough decisions, it's easier for that woman to rationalize to herself, you know what? Let me just let this man do what he feels is best. Because she sees you've been successful at it. But when you ain't got that resume, that's 100 times harder. So at the end of the day, just hear her out. Talk to your partner. Again, this is about healthy relationships, and you have to have that within your dynamic. All right. And now number 5 And maybe the most important, if not the most flat out most important thing for you to do to make a woman submit to you is to become a healed man. So here's the thing. Women, this wasn't what I was going to originally say, but I honestly feel like this is like hitting my spirit, so I got to say it. Women are very emotionally aware individuals. And when I say emotionally aware, they pick up on everything. All right. They can see through a lot of things. Now, some of you might be saying, well, if that's the case, why are they not making better decisions? And why do they do what they do? That's because there's a lot of other issues at play that stop them from being able to, not stop them, that they struggle with, that pulls them away from embracing what they are seeing, what they do know, what they do sense. But they are seeing it. And I bring that up to say that when you are a damaged, broken man, she's going to see it at some point. All right. Now, she may think she can fix you. She may think, she can help you get to a better place. But the problem is, if she is seeing you as broken and damaged, and I can fix him or help him, it goes back to her seeing herself now as leading you to something rather than you being the leader. And even if you are able to get to a healed place, you don't get the full credit that you would have gotten doing it on your own and holding yourself accountable for the need to heal. So it's risky. Again, I'm not saying it's never worked out for anyone. I'm just saying for most people, it doesn't work out well. But not only does she see it in the sense of now having to see herself as your leader, but again, if she sees you or she recognizes, acknowledges, whether it's through her just picking up on it or it coming out in maybe in an emotional outburst and you having a moment where you lose control, whatever the case may be, or being triggered by something, how can she trust you being her leader? You leading her in this relationship at any moment? She can't. You don't seem to have yourself together. All right. You seem unstable. If you come across as unstable in any kind of way, that's not instilling any confidence in her. That's not going to make her feel safe to where she can submit to you. No, she now has to be careful with how she moves and navigates things with you. So if you want to establish that dynamic, you have to start with healing yourself. And when I say heal, man, I don't mean just that last heartbreak you experience or the first thing that comes to mind. I'm saying heal from everything. And as men, too many of us have suppressed things for so long. All right. So some of y'all may not even be aware of what you haven't healed from because you've been suppressing it. But I'm going to give you a quick exercise that I always give when I'm out on tour. And that's the who hurt me list. So when you get an opportunity, get a piece of paper, write down who hurt me, and then ask yourself that question, who hurt me? And now every person who comes to mind, put them on the paper. Doesn't matter how long ago it happened. It doesn't matter if you think it's not a big deal or you move past it. If they come to mind, there is some kind of significance there. Put them on the paper and a brief summary of what they did to hurt you. This is your first step to starting to recognize what you've been holding on to and what needs to be addressed. And you've got to face this because if you don't, you're gonna always make it difficult for you to have a healthy and happy relationship. But not only will you make it difficult for you to have that great relationship, you are more likely to choose the wrong woman because you are not healed. You are more likely to tolerate a woman who is not good for you because you are not healed. You are more likely to struggle to walk away from a situation you need to walk away from because you are not healed. So for your best interest, forget just her even submitting to you. For you, your happiness, and even your health, because a lack of healing will affect your health, whether you realize it or not. And I feel the need to say this too. One of the biggest things that men struggle with is high cortisol levels. All right. I'm not a doctor, so go research it. But again, when you're suppressing so much, that's a lot of emotional stress. That stress in the body activates a lot of cortisol. And if you've seen some of my other videos, I always talk about how men are dealing with record low testosterone. Well, even if you improve your testosterone, if your cortisol is too high, from what I understand, it will still block your body's ability to use that testosterone. So you are still going to struggle. So reducing stress is a huge key to men living a healthier, happier life. And healing will remove a lot of that stress. It will also help you deal with future obstacles that come your way and understand how to better handle them, process, learn, and grow from them. So please do what's necessary. Get in the healing process. You can check out my book, Love After Heartbreak. Just go to loveafterheartbreak.com. I usually don't plug 2 books in a video, but it just came out that way. But either way, get the book. But listen, again, submission from a woman, you got to make sure you're a man worthy of it. That's just reality. You know what I'm saying? And to be truthful, submission is really for husband, wife. But I do understand that because of the way that we go about boyfriend and girlfriend relationships, we have to establish the environment early on that allows us to transition smoothly for those who are willing to get married or open to marriage when we transition to that next level. So do what you got to do and you'll receive what you truly desire to receive. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here and I'll see you there. So I was like, yo, you're telling me you love this guy. You're telling me he's so awesome. Why are you sleeping with someone else then? And she said, because when it comes to the bedroom, he's so passive. And I'm not able to get what I need from him sexually. So I get that from this other man.